Okay, everyone, I've got 8 o'clock here in Arizona, right on the nose. Probably it's different times from everyone's out there. I want to thank you all for joining today. This is the Unique Lighting webinar, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Just want to let everybody know that please, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the question and answer box there off to the left side of your screen. I have Jai Musselman joining us today as well. He's out of our Florida location, and we'll help field the questions. So if you hear someone else's voice when I bring him in for some of those, don't be alarmed. So I am also recording this session. So if anyone misses it or wants to forward it on to anyone, I'll get you the link as soon as we're done. And on top of that, we are at our limit. We've got a full house today. So I do have this one running about a half hour after this one ends. So if you have any colleagues or friends that tried to log in and couldn't, let them know we'll be rerunning this again, 30 minutes after this one ends, and there's a link for it to do that. So does everyone have video? I'm getting that someone has audio but no video. I'm sharing my screen. Is it just one person? Is it everyone? Jai, are you on? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. Might be something on your end. I'm not sure how to fix that. So hopefully you can get that fixed. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So first thing I want to do is really introduce myself. My name is Brian Qualls. I'm the National Business Development Manager for Unique Lighting Systems. I've been with the company now for just coming up on our 9 years. And before that, I was a landscape architect. And in fact, I've still carry my landscape architecture license, licensed here in Arizona. I've worked at just about every type of company there is, from small boutique firms to big engineering firms. But the point that I'm bringing is that I've been in this business my entire career, ever since I graduated college. So I know a lot about landscape design, and I come at it a little bit differently than most when we talk about design and things like that. So this is going to be geared kind of from that lens, from that perspective. And that's kind of, like I said, give you a little bit of background of where I come from as we go through this. A little bit about Unique Lighting Systems. So we've been around for just over 25 years. Started way down in Escondido, California, kind of making well lights and transformers, and we've gotten to where we're at today. So a few of the big things that are about us is that we have cast brass fixtures that carry a lifetime warranty, and then we're the ones that created and patented the hub system. And I'll talk about that later in this presentation, kind of the hub versus daisy chain. So what is low voltage lighting? I know this is kind of funny to bring up, but really it is 12 volts. We've got multi-tap transformers that'll go up to 15 volts. But the biggest thing is that we're a lot more flexible in the low voltage lighting realm than we are with 120 volts. And since LEDs came on the market for us, and have seem to be getting better every year, we can do a lot more than we ever could before with low voltage. That I think not only competes with the 120, gives us the more flexibility that we don't have to be licensed electricians to install it. The price point is where it's at, that we can really put in some really nice designs on low voltage, and gives us flexibility. And again, with LED, our runs are much longer. Voltage drop isn't there where it used to be. So it's a really good way to go. And really, why light? Why do we want to, push lighting or design with lighting? And the biggest thing for me is if you're a landscape architect or a landscape contractor, our clients, our customers are spending a lot of money to do their backyards or their front yards, or even, if you're a light commercial, creating nice spaces that people want to go visit. And if we don't have those areas lit, then they only get to be used 50% of the time. So now I know the days are getting longer, but in the wintertime, for me, for the most part, when I it's dark, and when I go to work and when I come home at the end of the day, it's dark. And if I didn't have lighting in my yard, I wouldn't be able to use it. Now, enough that I live in Arizona, so our winters are very mild. So I can pretty much use my space all year round, and I'm out until the sun goes down. It gets too dark, too hot. So by having that lighting, I get to extend the use of that space as we go through, and that's a good selling point when you're talking to customers. So as I mentioned, Jai down in Florida, he's on the call, and I asked him to send a picture of his front yard, and this is kind of what he's got at his house. And I'm certainly kidding when I say that, but this is the point of also too why we want lighting. Whether they it or not, just about everybody wants lighting in their yards at some varying degree. And if we don't offer to them as experts, as designers, or experts as contractors, this is what they're going to end up doing. They'll go down to Home Depot, they'll go down to Lowe's, and they'll buy a solar light, or something or what they'll do is they'll go very, very minimal. All I need are 4 lights, or all I need are 5 lights. When my parents moved here, I did the lighting in their backyard. My dad called me up and told me, hey, I need 5 lights in my backyard. And by the time I got done, it was a very, very patio home, very small backyard, retired couple. By the time I got done, we were at 25 lights, and I probably could have done 30. And all he wanted was 5, because this is what he's used to seeing. Or you end up getting something like this, where you get kind of a spooky house, where there's dark spots and it's not a good transition. We've got nothing lit in front. This house is floating in the night, versus something like this. I'm looking for a very nice atmosphere. I tell all my friends, all my coworkers, that if someone doesn't give me a compliment on the lighting system, then I know I've done a good job. I want people to feel comfortable in my space, just like I do when I'm doing landscape design or landscape construction. I want people to feel comfortable in that space, that go, wow, this feels really good, that they're not going to come back and say, hey, that's a great lighting design. Now, it feels good when people do say that, but for the most part, I just want people to feel comfortable in the space, and you do that with lighting more than just doing 3 or 4 or 5 lights. But Brian, we're not electrical engineers or electrical contractors. Now, I've heard that. I've used to say that when I was a landscape architect, and quite honestly, that's kind of how I made my way to Unique Lighting. Was they helped me understand lighting design. And the lighting design's not difficult. If you're already designing for landscapes, lighting design follows the exact same principles, right? So if we're doing landscape or a landscape design, we don't go buy 30 specimen trees and space them 20 feet on center, right? We have our focal points, we have our highs, our lows, we're transitioning people through the space, we're trying to get them to where we want to go, and lighting does the exact same thing. And in fact, if you follow your landscape design with your lighting design, it'll actually start to fall into place. So we highlight our focal points, we light the gazebos, we get transitions, we don't want any dark holes and that sort of thing. And then really it's flexible. So when you're putting in low voltage lighting, we're not concreting these things in the ground, that you can always adjust them, move them around, and get them to where they look exactly right. Like I said, I've been doing this for Unique Lighting for 9 years. I was a landscape architect for 20 years, and I'm still learning as I'm out in the field. So if you kind of take that part of it, that, hey, this is always a continuing learning process, you'll get comfortable, you'll get confident, and then you can design to get yourself looking really good. And really the two things I want to point out here when you're creating a lighting design is it's a lot like doing an irrigation system for a turf, right? So if I'm irrigating, setting up a sprinkler system on a turf, I want 2 things I want to control. I don't want any dry spots, and I don't want any overspray. So black holes in any landscape lighting design is basically your dry spots. I don't want any black holes. I don't want that spooky house. I want a nice, easy transition, even if it's a small little 2-watt, LED to kind of make the light continuous as we go through. And then I want to eliminate glare. Glare is just like overspray, as I mentioned. You can't control 100% of it, but once you're aware of it, you can do a really, really good job of not ruining your lighting design. I tell people all the time, if you got a 10 light system or a 110 light system, one glare bomb is just going to ruin the whole thing. So we have pieces and parts that you can add to a lot of our fixtures that will help you control that glare, and you're never going to control 100% of it. But once you're aware of it, then you can really help you with your design. The one big thing that I can kind of use as an example, and I use it on all mine, is think of that backyard party. We've all been to one where the homeowner's got a big floodlight on the corner of the house, just lighting the whole backyard. And you're spending the whole night trying to make sure your back is to that light, so the person you're talking to is facing that glare and you're not. So, think about how that works if with one, and if you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 of those in your backyard, it just kind of ruins the whole thing. So just eliminate the glare. Now, I like to show this picture here. One of the things a lot of people like to gravitate to are path lights or bollards. I get requests for those all the time. Now, I'm not a huge fan of path lights, and not that they don't do a good job. I mean, they put out tremendous light. They're really, really good at what they do. But the biggest problem I have with them is they become targets, right? So think about this picture here where I've got the walk going all the way up to the front of the house, and this is all turf. And if I had path lights lining this all the way up and down, they get hit by line trimmers and extension cords, garden hoses, kid riding a skateboard running over, basketballs, what have you. So I try and try and reduce the amount of path lights I can on a job site. As you can see here, we've used a lot of ambient light bouncing off the house that I've lit this walk just enough that if I'm new to this, never been to this house before, walking up to the front door, I know there's no skateboard or a tripping hazard in my way as I make my way up to it. Same thing here. Normally this is kind of more of a, light commercial situation where I want 4 bollards running down that walk. But if I'm using my ambient light as much as I can still light that walk, make it feel like a safe space. So that way, if two people are passing in the night, I know whether, that or not that person's a threat or, it's safe to walk past them. So I use a lot of ambient light as much as I can as we go through. And this is probably one of my favorite pictures that kind of illustrate that. So here we got a nice long walk, but rather than lining them with bollards or path lights that would have just lit the walk, we bounced the light off the walls and then highlighted it. This is a nice, wonderful color. We've got some texture, and then the lighting is actually now making a very nice, comfortable visual effect without having to have that maintenance issue of having path lights going all the way around. So the point that I'm bringing up is that there's multiple ways to light a scene, multiple ways to light a situation. So, rather than jumping right to one way, think of other ways that you can do that. And same here with downlights. So if you get in a situation where I don't really have a spot, but I do want light on the ground, you can see in this picture up here on the top, we've got 2 or 3 downlights that are getting the area lit, so that way we don't have to have a path light. There's really no spot for one here. I don't have to try and put a floodlight on the corner of this house. I'm getting a good look. And then if you'll notice, we put these at a little bit higher Kelvin temperature, and I'll touch on that a little bit. So that way it looks like I've got a full moon effect 365 days a year. So gets you a little bit more than just putting one color all the way through. You can kind of see we're a little bit warmer on the trees and nice and cool on the ground. And then again, we always run into that situation where a lot of people call it landscape lighting, and we go out and just light the landscapes. I've been pushing that, I tend to call it more low voltage lighting. I'm always looking beyond just lighting trees and bushes. I'm trying to light, the buildings. I'm trying to light entryways, gazebos, statues, fountains, whatever I can, because I think, again, we got more control when it comes to low voltage lighting. And if you'll notice, this has got a nice little glow that if I'm sitting out here in the evening, enjoying a glass of wine, I'm not feeling like I'm on display by having these big spotlights. And you can see up here, when the house was built, they put 2 big, and these are probably really bright lights that they only turned on if someone knocked on the door. So this way I can enjoy my porch without having that big bright display as we go through. And then again, gazebos, those are the easiest, and that's kind of where I start. If you're looking at a lighting design, lighting plan, what have you, the first thing I always start with are the focal points. Is there a specimen tree somewhere? Is there a gazebo? And then work my way out from that point. And I really love showing this picture here because this does show, yes, you can see where we got the path lights or area lights located. They do put out a great amount of light. I mean, I really like their performance. But in this situation here, you can see I've got them protected. So I've got one by a boulder. This one's a little bit off the path, so it's not really where it's going to turn. Again, I've got this it's not right on that corner with the turf and it's pulled off to the edge a little bit. So, find a way to protect it with boulders or shrubs, or if you can't, don't put them right adjacent, kind of give them a little bit of a separation, because you can see we get tremendous performance out of them when you do need to put in a path light. So, as a quick kind of how to design, if you're looking at this plan here, this is the front of the house. So this is the house here. This is the front porch. This is a big house here in Scottsdale, Arizona. This is a guest house garage type of thing, and this is the street that it fronts onto. So most designers, most contractors, when they walk on a job site, they're looking at it from this point of view. It's like, okay, I'm going to stand out in the street. I want this to look beautiful. That way I've got my nice shots to put in my portfolio, and they start lighting it up from that viewpoint. But the problem is when the homeowner's sitting on his porch looking this direction, the backside of all these trees, from his viewpoint, everything's dark. And so I see a lot of people, they go out there and they start counting trees and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I need 8 lights on the front, and they put 1 light per tree. And what's happening is you kind of end up doing a disservice to your homeowner because he's not sitting out here enjoying his glass of wine. He's sitting here enjoying his glass of wine. But he also wants that same view you do as people coming into his house going, wow, that's great. Now, this guy loved to entertain. So, he had guest parking and a big ironwood tree that had 360-degree views. So this would probably need 3, if not 4 lights on here that, that way you've got that 360-degree view. When I got done with this project, we ended up putting 8 lights on this tree because I did 4 up and 4 down because, again, we wanted to make sure he had nice lighting for his guests without having to put parking lot or spotlights in the corner. So by the time we got done with 8 lights, this just came out to look really, really, really sharp. Fortunately, I don't have any pictures. He was kind of a private guy, so he wouldn't let me take any pictures of his house. But this kind of gives you a good illustration of how to lay out a lighting plan as you're looking through and going through it. So kind of back to unique lighting, what separates us from other manufacturers that are out there? I know you have a lot of choices. Probably the 2 big things for us is that we're 25-foot wire lead on all of our fixtures, and then we do everything that lends itself to the Intelli Hub System. And I'm going to talk about the Hub System here in a few minutes. But the other thing too is our training and support is available beyond, especially the people that are, selling online. So, like I mentioned, Jai Musselman's on the call with us today, and he's in Florida. We have reps throughout the country. If you're a designer and, you start designing with unique lighting and the contractor gets that job and gets on that job site, has never done, low voltage lighting or has never done unique lighting, we'll send a rep out to that job site to kind of do an on the job training. We call them install-a-days. So, rather than getting that crew or getting your crew into an office and trying to do a classroom style, when that product shows up, our guy's there, and if he's there for an hour, if he's there for a day, whatever it takes until your crew's comfortable installing this product, we offer that as part of our just what we do. And then also our complimentary support service. I'll talk about that at the end of this presentation, that we do offer design support as well. So quick little splash on Odyssey, this is our flagship product. So it is cast brass construction, lifetime warranty, and then it comes with the 25-foot wire leads. We also have a pack of designer lenses in there, so that helps you control the glare that I mentioned before. And then there's other pieces that go with the fixtures that can help control that glare. So what I tell a lot of people in regards to the cast brass fixture itself versus a stamped or a spun brass. So, stamped and spun brass is still a solid brass construction. And same with this, our cast brass, this isn't a coating. If this gets scratched, it's brass all the way through. So you're never going to have anything, worry about corrosion or anything like that. But when you take a cast brass fixture and you were to throw it on the ground, you're probably going to put a crack or put a chip into the concrete or the paver you're throwing into. If you take a spun brass or a stamped and throw that on the ground, you're going to dent that brass. It's sheet metal. So for the higher end homeowners, the light commercial type stuff, the cast brass construction, it's built to last. And this is what we use everything for our designs as we go through. Couple of new products for us that came on last year. We have 2 well lights here, the Solstice and the Zenith. Both of these fixtures are actually drive over rated. So this gets you into that level to where we're starting to play a little bit in that line voltage game. but it's still a low voltage fixture. So these are both rated. You can drive over them with a fire truck and not crack them. The main difference is that this has got a smaller fixture on the inside. If anyone's familiar with our Nova, so it's on a full gimbal, gives you a full range of adjustability, so you don't have to GPS locate this thing in the concrete. You still have some room to adjust that on the inside, and it's an open bottom, so that way, you know, any water or anything like that can pass through. The Zenith, this one also has a gimbal. It's built into the fixture itself, and this has got a closed bottom, and it's got 4 knockouts, so 2 on either side and 2 on the bottom. Gives you that ability to, you know, place it where you need to, and you can see, you know, in hardscape situations, or if you've got driveways or things like that, both these fixtures are great for that application. And then the Hydro is our newest underwater fixture. This one, I know it says cast brass on here. I got to change that, but this is actually a forged brass fixture. What we were having was when we casted in the past, we were having issues with the water actually seeping through the brass. So now we're doing, this is one of the few forged brass fixtures in our lineup that keep that water intrusion out. This is a big fixture, so it's not for your small little, you know, backyard deal. We have another product for that, but this is more for your bigger fountains and bigger kind of ponds and things like that. So it's a good size fixture. It's got a 50-foot wire lead, so it's easy to make those dry connections outside, so you don't have to make any underwater connections. And then the Newton one on the bottom, that again is a low voltage wall light, but it takes an MR16, so it gives a little bit more brightness than a T3. It is built kind of as that line voltage look, but what I like about it, this is lends itself more towards new construction rather than retrofits because of the body on the back of it. But since, again, it's low voltage, you know, you have the control to put this fixture wherever you want. You don't have to rely on an electrical engineer or electrical contractor, you know, to where if you're trying to, like this situation, you can tell I'm trying to line this up with the tread on the riser here. So I'm not having to worry about, you know, someone else putting it in the wrong spot, whether I'm trying to light pots or, you know, certain features on the wall. This gives you a little bit more control by placing it. I think I've been going kind of 100 miles an hour here. I'm going to take a quick stop and take a peek to see if anyone's got any questions to put in the question box. I saw one here. It says wall washes, ? I'm not sure what we're asking on that one there. I don't know if we can elaborate a little bit, but give everyone an opportunity to ask a question, type it in there. If not, I'll go ahead and keep moving forward. All right, we're going to go ahead and pop them in. I'm going to keep moving, but if a question comes up, go ahead and pop it in there. We're going to jump right into LEDs at this point. That was about the picture that you said that you really liked. Yes, those were wall washers at the bottom for sure. So either, I can't remember if they were Starbursts or Stellars, but it's definitely going to be wall washers on the wall. For the LEDs. So we are a drop-in style lamp. So what that means is that our LEDs are independent of the fixture themselves. And so we build everything, that all the components, all the drivers, everything are in the fixtures. This is compared to what's out there as far as an integrated fixture. You know, so where the LED is actually built into the fixture itself. We decided to go with the drop-in style because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. If by any chance, you know, and then these things are still put together by human hands, if an LED goes bad, with us, it's you pull the LED out of the fixture, go down to a distributor and get it warrantied out and get a new one and you put it back in. If it's an integrated fixture and heaven forbid that it goes bad, you either have to pull that whole fixture out and put a new one in and unwire it and go through that whole process, or some of these you can pull the LED modules out or the boards out and get them replaced. But the chances that a distributor is going to have that module in stock is pretty low. So now you got to get that back for the manufacturer. The other side of that, as I mentioned before, I've been doing this a long time and I'm still learning as I go through, and there's lots of times where I'll put something in and go, it's quite not performing the way that I thought it would. It's either too bright or it's not bright enough or it's the wrong beam angle. With a drop-in, I can now pull that bulb out, put the right one in until I get it the way that I like it. And it gives you a lot more flexibility. So, for us, we've got the T3s, which are the, for the path lights and the small wall washers, MR16s, and then the PAR 36s, which are kind of like a motorcycle lamp, about that size. With our LEDs, we have them in 2700 Kelvin, which is warm white, 3000 Kelvin, which is a little bit cooler. I do have some limited runs in 5,000, but mainly it's 2,700 and 3,000, and those are kind of static. Those don't change. With the Vivid, which is our newer LED lamp, I've got two options there. The first one is what we call a CCT, or white color shift. So you have the ability to put that LED in any fixture, and then I connect it via Bluetooth to any smart device. Then from there, I have the ability to control that color from 2700 Kelvin, which is the warm white, all the way up to 6500, and anywhere in between. And then again, that is Bluetooth straight from your smart device to the lamp. You don't need any special fixtures. You don't need a special transformer. It'll work. If you've got an existing system right now that you just don't like the color, you can pull those LEDs out, put these in, and you're good to go. It's that flexible. In addition to the Vivid lineup, we've also got one that's RGBW. So it is, red, blue, green, or W. So the RGB ones with the white, that is static. So you have to pick whether you want 2700 or 3000. You can't switch between. But as you can see on the picture, you can pick just about any color under the sun, as far as red, green, blues, and any variation in between. Those are available in both MR16. For the RGBs are MR16 and PAR 36. The CCTs are only available in MR16. And as an example, you can see here that this is a photo taken with the CCT lamp. The one on the right is 2700, and the one on the left is closer to 3500, 4000 Kelvin. So what we're finding in the field is that the lower of the scale, the 2700s, really bring out the reds and the purples, and then as you slide up that scale, get closer to 3000, the greens start to pop, the blues start to pop as the higher you go up the scale. So as I mentioned before, I live here in Arizona, and I've got a lot of people that call me up and say, "Oh, Brian, I put a green LED on the saguaro cactus, and man, it really looks great." And I've gone out there and I've looked at it, and to me, it looks cartoonish. It's almost as if I'm painting color over the top of that cactus. To where a CCT, if I get that up to around 3500, 4000 Kelvin, I'm now pulling the green out of it, and it's a lot more vibrant than pasting green over the top. If you, again, I don't know if you can tell on your screens, but if you're looking at these two pictures, take a look at this tree up in the upper left-hand corner. You can see where the 2700 is pulling out the browns a little bit and kind of the branches, compared to on the left where it's a little bit higher Kelvin temperature. It's got a little more vibrant green. And that's kind of where you get to play with it. And that's what I really like about these, is that, I can't really say, okay, all greens need to be 3500. You can go out there and play with it yourself until you get that color you like. Now, there's people out there that like this warm look, and I personally like more of the cooler look. But again, this gets you the point. It's a lamp setting tool. So once it's set there. You don't have to worry about it changing unless you physically go out there and change it. So, since Unique Lighting Systems is our name, and we are about the system itself, we also do have our own set of transformers. So we have one as small as a 60-watt compact transformer. We've got a 150-watt, 300-watt LED transformer. So those will have a 12, 13, 14, and 15-volt tap. And then we're coming out here in the next couple of weeks, very, very soon, our brand new, what we call our Pro Force transformers. These are going to be a 300-watt and a 600-watt transformer. Those will have up to a 24-volt tap coming out of the secondary side. And what's nice about that is having those bigger taps will give you those longer runs. So you can, if you don't have a power drop, let's say at an entry, for an HOA or way back in the back of the backyard, being able to use those higher taps will give you those longer runs. So you can use that without having to go buy a big old 1100-watt transformer and only use 300 watts of it just because you needed the higher taps. This will give you some cost savings to where you can buy a 300 or 600 watt with the bigger taps. And then smart logic. So this is our control system. This is a cloud-based system, so it's not Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth. And the way it works is it comes with two pieces. You have one gateway that actually plugs into your router inside the house up to your modem. And then it's radio frequency, so 900 megahertz going out to these LPCUAs. These take the place of the timers. So it gives you the ability to, program it to when it comes on and off. And adjust the different scenes. So you can have up to 4 different scenes per gateway. We have to scene by transformers, so you can't zone the transformers. But with the smaller ones, we can go ahead and zone it through that way, and then we can help you out with that. And what's nice about it is since it's plugged into your router, it knows where it's at in the world, so it seasonally adjusts every day. So you can say, I want my lights to come on or turn on at dusk every night. And right now the days are getting longer, and so the system knows that, so it seasonally adjusts every day. So you never have to go back out there and adjust the timer or anything like that. Plus you have the ability that then you can program it or turn your system on and off from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be on the job site. This is really good for contractors. You can be put on as a representative, and in fact I'm representative on several properties myself, that when someone has a problem, I can look up their system in the comfort of my own home, see what's going on, and then kind of try and fix it from there. Before I drive all the way out there to see what's going on, I can get a snapshot of their system from my house. So really, really great tool. And also too, it ties in with the Toro irrigation controllers as well. So you can have, one location and program your irrigation controllers, your lighting. It's a really, really great system. So I'm going to jump over to hubs here, and the two I'm going to talk about are the satellite hub and the Intelli Hub. And people ask me, what's the difference between the two? And here it is. This is the satellite hub, so it's a little bit smaller. The Intelli Hub is a little bit larger and allows for a lot more connections. So to kind of dive into that a little bit more, we're going to talk about kind of the 3 different methods of wiring. So daisy chain, this is what everyone's done since the dawn of low voltage lighting, and the contractor will go out and place the fixtures, hang the transformer, and then run the wire from fixture to fixture to fixture. The biggest problem, yes, I know that voltage drop isn't as big of an issue anymore with LEDs, but the bigger problem is now what's happening is I've got 2 connections at every location. So no matter who you talk to, everyone's going to tell you they've got the best lighting system in the world, but all lighting systems out there, they all share the same weakness, and that's connections. Just like an irrigation system, right? Where does an irrigation system break? It breaks at the T's, the elbows, anytime I've made a cut in that main line. Same thing happens here. So now I've got 5 fixtures with 2 connections each. So that's basically 10 connections where there's possible failure points that goes through. And what happens if there's a failure point, I got to start digging in the landscape and looking for it. The other downside is now we're using subpar connectors for the most part. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but these are the type of connectors that you see more often than not. And what happens is they're not protected, and so when the system starts to heat up, because electricity will heat the wire up, it starts to draw moisture into the wire. And when it's bare copper, over time it will actually corrode, and this corrosion and patina will actually work its way up the wire all the way back to the transformer. I've seen it go more than 25 feet, and this will actually reduce your efficiency of the system. And this is why you get the phone calls say, I don't know what happened. It worked great for 2 years and suddenly everything got dim and it stopped working. And this is because you have a weak point, you're allowing moisture in to wick its way up. So to combat that, years and years and years ago, we came out with the hub system. So if you've got your 5 fixtures in the ground with your 25-foot wire lead, I'm pulling them back to a box, a hub. I've got it protected. And then now I'm taking those 10 connections and I'm turning it into 3. And the reason why it's 3 connections and not 2 is that I'm also now wiring a fuse inside that hub. So an inline fuse, I'm now not just relying on the transformer to be my sole source for protection. I want to be protected here in the field, and then not rely on the transformer to do that, because you really got to overload a transformer for it to pop. It's got to be a really big failure for it to pop. Several of you have probably heard that, hey, why did these wires burn up here and the transformer didn't trip its breaker? Well, that's because the wire here had a smaller amp rating than the transformer, so it couldn't handle the amperage, and that's where it's burned up, and that's why we put fuses to handle that amp rating. So again, 5 fixtures, 3 connections, and now I'm also hub protected. Now, since we got LED and amp draws and voltage drop are so low, I can do what's called an Intelli Hub System, and that's where our Intelli Hub comes in. So now what I'm doing is I'm using satellite hubs out here in the further reaches, and then I'm tying them all back to one Intelli Hub. So now I can put 3 hubs back to this, and then 8 fixtures back to that. So now I've got 20 fixtures, which would have been 40 connections. Now I got it down to 12, and I'm fuse protected at every location. So what's nice about it is multiple things. Number one, I'm not relying on the transformer to be my sole source of protection. And 2, if something happens and there's a short or something goes wrong here, it'll pop that fuse and the rest of the system is still running. If I didn't have all these protections and there was a short, it would shut this system down. And when does that happen for you contractors out there? It happens at Friday night before your homeowner's having a party, right? So this way it gives you that protection. When the system's installed, I tell all my contractors, hey, if you got a hub system and this light is not working, then there's a problem at that light. If this whole bank is out, then there's a problem at that hub. If the whole system's out, then there's either a problem at your Intelli Hub or problem at your transformer. So it helps a lot with troubleshooting. Again, we call it low voltage, but it's still electricity. So if you imagine, the setup at your house, right? You've probably got a master panel on the side of your garage or the side, one side of your house, and then there's a sub panel in your laundry room, sub panel in your master bathroom, sub panel, back in the guest room. Imagine if you didn't have that in your house and you had a short. You'd have to go take a hammer and start popping holes in your drywall to go find it. Same thing with the landscape. If we don't have these, that's exactly what people do. If there's a short, they start digging holes in the landscape to try and find it, or throw their hands up, abandon the system, and rewire the whole system. And then here's a picture of kind of what an Intelli Hub looks like, nice and clean. Everything gets put in there. We give you extra fuses. And that's the thing. Let me go back one here. Everything's included in the hub. So you get the fuses, you get the connectors, you get the fuse holder. Really all you need is a flathead screwdriver and a pair of wire cutters. And that'll help you put this thing together as you go through. Also too, the price of this, roughly, if you're using really, really good DBY connectors, the one, the gel filled that really kind of put it together, the price by doing 5 of those, is actually 10 of those, 2 for each fixture. You're about the same. Maybe there might be a little bit of a premium on the hub, but the cost almost washes out, and then you get a much better system using the hub. And then here's a close-up picture. This is the connector that goes inside the Intelli Hub. There's a black grease-filled cap that's threaded, so it's full of silicone grease. Once you thread it on there, this is protected. And again, I'm not burying it in the dirt. And then this is the one that goes inside the Intelli Hub. And then there's another big old grease-filled cap that's zip-tied that goes over the top of that. And then these are our crimps. If we ever want to get into advanced training, these are more of our crimp connectors. This is more of a permanent situation where there's special tool and caps to get that to go together. What's nice about these two is if I ever wanted to add a fixture, I can just undo that screw, slip a new wire in and tighten it up. And these are Allen keys here, same thing. If I ever wanted to add a new fixture, I don't have to cut to add a new one. I can just loosen those up and put one in. And then here is the layout of what one would look like, just as in concept. So here's my satellite hubs, and then my Intelli Hub here. As you can see, I'm pulling all these fixtures back, and now I've only got basically 2 home runs back to the transformer. With all of these fixtures, I don't have this spaghetti bowl of wires back at the transformer. It really helps me get a nice clean connection. I see a question here. It says, can you use a hub to fuse protected daisy chain of fixtures? transformer to hub to daisy chain of fixtures. Paul, yes, you can do that. And there are times where I'll even just fuse protect the line inside the transformer. So rather than putting a hub in the ground, I'll go get an inline fuse and put it on the end of the line that goes inside the transformer. That protection is better than nothing, but keep in mind now you're fuse protecting that entire line as it goes down. So if one fixture goes out and you got 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 fixtures on, that whole line will go down. But yeah, I've often put a fuse or a hub at the beginning of a daisy chain to go through that. So yes, great question. Thank you for asking it. And then finally here, this is kind of, I like to show this picture to show everyone that every single fixture on this photo is low voltage. So the sconces, the downlights, even the lights up underneath, these are all low voltage lights, so the undercaps. So now with everything that we're doing, again, if for those of you that are building these outdoor kitchens, these outdoor spaces, you don't have to kick it over to someone else and hope they get your vision and hope that they understand, how you want the lights. You have that ability that, you can put in low voltage. And now with our smaller transformers, you don't have to put a big honking stainless steel box on the side of this. You can tuck the 60 watt up underneath the bar and then be able to have that control as you go through. How do we figure on what size fuse we use in a hub or an Intelli Hub? Dustin, that's a great question. Basically, it's Ohm's law. So you take your however many watts you have on that hub, divide it by your volts. That'll tell you how many amps that you have on that line, and then you just go 1 or 2 amps above that. So if you do your watts divided by volts, and you end up with 2.2 amps, then you put a 3 amp fuse in there. And do that for every single hub, and that'll tell you what size fuse you need. That's a big problem. A lot of people will go, "Oh, this is great. Unique Lighting gives me 20 amp fuses," and they'll put 20 amp fuses in there. And if it's only 4 or 5 amps, you'll never, even if there's a short, there's a very low likelihood you'll trip the fuse. So make sure you use size per load. So thank you for that. That's a good question. And finally here, as I mentioned before, since I am a landscape architect, I do head up our lighting design assistance program. This is where we'll actually do the lighting design for you and lay everything out. So what we'll do is we do everything in AutoCAD, so it'll be to scale. We'll do your fixture locations, hub locations, wire design. We'll do the voltage drop calculations and get everything through there. So I can do this on just about anything. If you've got a PDF, we can do it from a Google Earth image, or do it in straight AutoCAD. But as you see here, I'll lay this out. It looks very, very similar to an irrigation plan. So what I tell a lot of my people that use this service is your newest guy and your newest crew, if he can read a set of irrigation plans, he can figure this out and install the lighting system. This service is 100% complimentary. So, we'll do this free of charge. Takes us about 1 week to turn it around, so give us everything that you can, and then we'll lay it out. And we'll do as much or as little as you want. If you kind of know where you want the fixtures placed and you just want us to do the dirty work, we're fine with that. If you just, hey, I've never really done lighting before, can you go ahead and lay it out? I've got a team of designers that I work with that have been doing this a long time, and I jump in from time to time as well, and we'll design the whole thing for you. And what's nice is you'll get the actual build sheet, you'll get the legend with quantities, the correct part numbers, and then this is what we'll do for your voltage calcs. So you'll get this at the end of the job as well. It'll tell you exactly how much wattage you're actually using, and then we'll tell you what transformer size. I hear this a lot, especially more from the landscape architects and the designers out there, that a contractor will call up and say, hey, we want to use a smaller transformer. We don't think we need the one that you have. And without this, it's hard for a landscape architect to review and approve that. So I'll tell you, if you engage me and we do the design, I'm probably going to put a little give you a little bit bigger transformer than you need. I like to put a little bit of insurance policy on there because with the one thing about lighting is we have no control over it after we leave the job. So once we leave the job, the homeowner can go try and put a bigger bulb in or try and add more lights to it. And if you size that transformer, right to the, exact, load, someone adds one more light, they could start tripping transformers and cause a problem. But back to Dustin's question here, when we kind of give you this setup, you'll be able to see what your amp load is at each hub. So hub number 1 has a 2.25 amp load. We'll put a 3 amp fuse in there, and that'll help you out as well as you're going through. So this is available to everyone and anyone. Question came from, which AutoCAD program do I use? I'm on the latest, so I don't know if that's AutoCAD 20 or is that 21 now. I've got the subscription service, so we stay up to date. But I can, if you're using an older version of AutoCAD, we can certainly save down for you if you want just the CAD files. So for the landscape architects that are out there, just want to let you know that treat me as a consultant. We'll go ahead and do the design. So what I'll need from you is all your base files, your planting plan, and what have you. I'll create the plan in AutoCAD and send it to you as an XREF. So then that way you can just reference it right into your set. It's part of your whole package, and it goes through. So you don't have to have a separate title block or separate PDF when it comes to lighting. We'll just incorporate that right into your set as we go through. So. Got some more questions. Have you used land effects for lighting design? Jeff, great question. We are a very, very strong partner of land effects. We've been working with them for quite some time. I've got my team set up on AutoCAD, so I haven't transitioned them over to using land effects quite yet. I know it's kind of weird to say, but if you go to land effects, you will see that we are fully represented there, all the way down to our IES files. So you can go ahead and start creating photometric layouts with land effects, and you can do the modeling with our product as well. So if you're using land effects, please check us out on there. We're very, very good. Could I talk a little about down moonlighting? Certainly. I'm not sure, John, what exactly we're trying to say, but I'll try and answer it. So down moonlighting, I like to make sure if I'm going to do it, I'm at least 10 to 12 feet in the air. Our downlight fixtures all come with different types of brackets. So we do have a bracket if you want to put it into a tree, and then we've got a kind of a sphere base if you're going to attach it to like an eave or a post or something like that. I've got them with different length shrouds. So if you're higher up in the air, you tend to want to have a longer shroud to help control that glare, and then you want the bottom of that shroud to be parallel with the ground. So if you're looking, if I can go back here, if you're looking at our fixtures, so I don't know if you can tell here to where you want that cut to be parallel with the ground, so that'll help control your glare as you go through. For me on the downlights, I always like to go a little bit higher in the Kelvin temperature because I like to have that kind of moonlight glow, but you don't necessarily have to. You can do whatever is comfortable for you as far as your color temp for your comfort level. I hope that answers the question. If not, go ahead and kind of hit me again as we go through. But that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Unless there's any more questions, we'll hang out here for another few minutes to give everyone an opportunity to type a question in. Okay, sounds like I answered John's question. So great, thank you for being part of it. And again, I thank everyone for attending. I will make this recording available. I'll let you know where you can download that. that up and running. And if there's any other questions beyond this, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is Brian with an I, so brian.qualls@uniquelighting.com. Please email me anytime. I'm here to help. And I'll give it one more minute for questions. If not, we're going to go ahead and end it here. All right, so everyone. Well, thanks again, and have a wonderful week.